Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us is Dr. Jennea Wood and Heidi Ochsner. And Dr. Jennea Wood is a naturopathic doctor, and Heidi is a registered dietitian at Tummy Temple. And it's always a pleasure working with them both. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
I'm Dr. Wood, Dr. Jennea Wood, and I practice primarily out of the Lacey or Olympia location of Tummy Temple. And I have a focus on all manner of gut, digestive health, as well as environmental medicine, detoxification, a lot of other things as well, autoimmune diseases, but cleansing and detoxification, I think, is such an important factor, and it's something I always check in with when I'm working with someone with a complex medical issue going on, because unfortunately we get exposed to a lot of things in the environment, and so this is something I'm really passionate about. I'm glad to have you all here and hope you find this useful. And I'll let Heidi Ochsner introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Heidi Ochsner, and I am the registered dietitian at Tummy Temple. I also, I've been there for about 18 years and a product manager and do a few other things there too. And I got my master's at Bastyr in nutrition, and I'm a firm believer in cleansing and detoxification for health, especially with the world as it is these days. And I also, of course, focus on gut health, being that I work at the Tummy Temple. And I'm just really excited to share this information with you tonight.
All right, so I just want to say, of course, you can save questions till the end, but you're also welcome to chime in, post them in the chat, and we will try to answer those as we go as well. So I want to start with some important takeaways from this class. The first is that our bodies are built to detoxify, and this is something we're designed to do, and we can help the process along with our behaviors. I want to inspire people to look at cleansing as something to do for yourself out of self-love and care in order to feel a little bit better in your body and get to experience more out of life, not from like a punitive space of, you know, I ate too much of XYZ and now I have to like restrict or, you know, punish myself or anything like that. So yeah, just self-support and self-care. And when we're talking about cleansing and detoxification, the absolute first step is how can we limit exposures to the things we're getting exposed to in our daily life to avoid constantly retoxifying at a rate that's really difficult to keep up with. So we will be sending out a handout, and it usually takes us a day or two to get that together, but in the next day or two, on ways to help reduce exposures to toxins, as well as some other supportive treatments that we'll talk about today. So keep an eye out for that. And, you know, just some basic things there are filtering your water, filtering your air, you know, basics like that. So that's a great resource to look out for. This is not about perfection. So we just cannot avoid all of the things that we get exposed to in our environment, and it would make us crazy if we tried. And so it's just about reducing exposures where we can. I also want to name that incorporating small acts of cleansing into our daily life can help enormously with our long-term health. And then choosing a form of deeper cleansing work that we do in a more concentrated way 1 to 4 times a year as a self-care practice can be a really useful and important aspect of preventing and or treating almost any chronic disease.
So often we're asked, like, why should I cleanse? You know, Dr. Wood just said our bodies have the ability to cleanse. And so people very often ask me that, well, shouldn't my body be just cleansing on its own? And of course, our bodies have that ability and are doing that. And at the same time, we're being exposed to toxins every day. Our bodies make metabolic waste products in the normal course of living every day. And if we think about where we are now compared to 100, 120 years ago, it's very different. When my grandparents and great grandparents were born, they did not have the kind of environmental toxins in their lives. I mean, post World War II is when we started creating plastics and lots of chemicals started being put into the environment. And we're exposed to a lot more now than people were even just 100 years ago. And evolution doesn't work, unfortunately, as rapidly as 100-year timeframes to change our ability to detoxify compared to how much has been added to the environment. So it makes it really important to add in, as Dr. was saying, these sort of small acts of cleansing as part of our everyday lives, and then consider adding in a more intensive cleanse a couple of times a year. So for example, some of these sources of toxicity that, you know, may not have been around when my grandmother was born in 1902, would be some of the cleaning supplies that we have now. That, you know, some of the things like skin care and makeups have a lot of different toxins in them that weren't even around. And then of course there's things like unfiltered drinking water and bathing water, air pollution, even candles and air fresheners release things that our bodies have to deal with. And then there are things like mold, especially when living in the Pacific Northwest, that can definitely be something that has to be considered when it comes to detoxification or cleansing. And then there's things like food and storage containers, food and water storage containers that are made out of plastics or other kinds of containers. Foods often have pesticides or fungicides or herbicides that they have on them, and you can't really just wash that all away. There's additives in our foods. Even if your foods doesn't digest well, it can create more waste that our bodies need to cleanse out. And then our lifestyles are also very different. So things like lack of movement and exercise can actually really affect our lymphatic system, which requires movement to move around, and that can make it harder to cleanse. If we aren't breathing deeply, disordered breathing, we, you know, exhale carbon dioxide, you know, and if we're shallowly breathing all day, that can be a problem. And even something that people don't think about, like not expressing our feelings, can create a toxic state in our body.
Absolutely. I wanted to share a study that was done actually quite a while ago now. Back in 2004, there was a cord blood study done by researchers through the Environmental Working Group, and they tested the blood from the umbilical cord of 10 brand new newborn babies born in August and September of that year in US hospitals. And what they found was an average of 200 industrial chemicals and pollutants in the blood of each of those babies. So, you know, things have unfortunately probably deteriorated further at this point. And so this is the unfortunate situation that we're living in. And this is scary, but you know, my goal is to bring awareness and ways to approach this and ways to, you know, live our lives, not panic, but just do the things that we can to help reduce that. So this is where cleansing comes in. So we can reduce the exposures where we can, and then help our bodies more efficiently eliminate the things that we just are inevitably exposed to.
So that leads us to the question of who is going to benefit from cleansing. And the short answer is just about everyone, with the exception of babies, young children, and pregnant or nursing mothers. In older children, you could actually even adapt some of the approaches that we're going to be discussing today, but you would want to just be extra gentle. So to give you an idea of signs or symptoms that could point to a need for cleansing, this could be skin issues like acne, eczema, things like allergies, seasonal allergies, or food allergies, asthma, diabetes even, headaches and migraines, autoimmune diseases, which there's a plethora of those, digestive issues, even varicose veins and hemorrhoids, and then things like fatigue and brain fog. Brain fog would be considered, I know I'm smarter than this, but I just feel a little foggy. So those are just some of the signs and symptoms that you could need to do some cleansing. It's not an exhaustive list.
I'm seeing a question popped up here. Can we suggest ways to reduce one's sensitivity to things like air fresheners and strong smelling laundry products? And yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing is, a lot of those products are toxic. And so really reducing your exposure is very, very important, but I understand you have to live in the world and these things are just around. And so, yeah, for a lot of people, helping the liver with the different phases of detoxification, which we're going to name a couple things that can help with that later in the class today, can be very, very helpful. And then there can be this sort of nervous system hypersensitivity that develops because your body reacts to these things, and then you can develop sort of almost like, this might not be quite accurate, but almost like a mini trauma response, and like your immune system and your nervous system are very highly sensitized to these things. So I wouldn't start with this, but there can be a place when someone is very, very sensitive with doing a little bit of like desensitization work, where you expose yourself to very tiny amounts of the triggering things. And I would say work with a practitioner on that, but there can be room for that. But I would first, really try and reduce your exposure, work on supporting the liver, all of that.
There is also I've had a number of clients that have had this, and there is a product that I've often used called Temple Detox Optimizer 2 that supports phase 2 liver detoxification, which is sometimes slower in people who feel that they have more trouble with chemicals, who feel that they're a little more chemically sensitive. And later we'll put up a collection list of some of the different supplements that are helpful, and you would find that in there. It's Temple Detox Optimizer 2 for phase 2.
Exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk more about the liver.
It'll get there. We'll get there.
Yep. Okay, so next we're gonna dive deep into the organs of elimination. So it's important to understand this concept because this is where people can really differ in which body systems need the most support. So as we're going through these, I would suggest that you make note of which, if any, of these areas you tend to struggle with, and we'll kind of go through what that might look like, how each system works, and then what it might look like when it's not working very well. So you can kind of make note if any of those particularly ring a bell. And then when we're talking more about therapies, some of them work better for supporting the different systems. And so those might be therapies that would be useful to lean into. So the primary systems of elimination in our body are the main ways that our bodies eliminate toxins. And this is the way in which we're built to deal with a certain degree of exposure to things, alcohol, chemicals, whatever. And our bodies are adapted to just less of this than what we're being exposed to now. So these include the skin via sweating, the lungs via breathing, the kidneys via urination, the intestines via stool, and then the emotions. So when these aren't working well, we become more prone to almost like exuding gunk from, in other less helpful ways. So that could look like diarrhea with mucus. It could look like, oftentimes it shows up as mucus or skin eruptions. So excess mucus in the lungs, in the throat, sinuses, nose, frequent urinary tract infections or frequent vaginal or urogenital infections, acne, eczema, and really all, many types of skin rashes. So when those organ systems of elimination are clogged or functioning insufficiently, the body will then start to accumulate toxins in the tissues of the skin, the mucous membranes, the muscles, joints, vital organs, and your body kind of prioritizes this. So it initially will often put things in the skin and the muscles and the joints because they're less vital to our survival. And then later on, when there's no other option, things will start accumulating in the brain and the heart and the lungs, the more vital organs. And that often goes along with more serious disease. For example, Parkinson's disease, which is highly associated with elevated body burden of environmental chemicals. So an example of a well-intentioned but sort of counterproductive treatment is using steroid cream on eczema. So it just suppresses the symptom. It doesn't address the underlying issue. One of those underlying issues can be accumulated toxicity. There can be other factors with eczema. And, it's not the end of the world to do this once in a while, but if that's all you do, then the underlying issue will just keep building up. And, sometimes the treatment will stop working, but more so it's just, there's this smoldering issue that's just not being addressed.
So now we're going to break down these different systems of elimination and go into a little bit more detail about each one. So first, we're going to talk about the digestive tract, which of course breaks down food for absorption into the body. You're also going to absorb water through the digestive tract. So signs of congestion could be things like constipation, gas, bloating, burping, and even heartburn. And so then what is it that's often clogging up the digestive tract? It could be things like not enough fiber, water, or exercise, processed foods, food additives, and then imbalances in the gut bacteria. So the gut bacteria, the good bacteria that live in your digestive tract, like they're called probiotics, but then you could also have bad bacteria or excessive fungus or parasites that could take over. And all of these can create excess waste, and that it's toxic to you. All of these things, they metabolize and they take in their nutrients and then they excrete their waste inside of you, which can be toxic to you. And so this includes things like SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or Candida, which could be like a yeast overgrowth. We're not going into great detail about these specific microbiome imbalances today. There are other classes that have more information about that. But just know that if you feel that you might have an imbalance in the bacteria or the microbiome in your body, that could be part of what's clogging up your digestive tract. As well, not having enough digestive juices. So then things don't break down very well. That can also be problematic. So how can we keep the digestive tract detoxifying? What are some of these daily things that we can do to help move things through the digestive tract? Because it's a major system of detoxification and elimination. First, you can drink a lot of water, clean water, and then you can get regular exercise. That helps move things through. As well, getting a lot of fiber, mostly from whole food forms, is really important.
And I just want to share a little example here. So our ancestors who were hunter-gatherers, and then there are still hunter-gatherer tribes today living in a traditional manner. It's been shown that they tend to get around 100 grams of fiber per day, whereas most Americans get an average of 12 to 18 grams of fiber per day. And the Institute of Medicine recommends about 25 for women, 33 for men, and that's still likely not enough. Part of the issue here is that we've bred our fruits and vegetables and such to have a lot less fiber in it to make it easier to chew and to prioritize a sweet flavor. And so, we just have fruits and vegetables that are bred to be more fiber deficient anyway. But there are ways that we can at least get our fiber intake up to, I would say, above 30 grams a day would be ideal for most people.
Yes. And if you do have digestive symptoms, getting help discovering the root cause is really important, because a lot of people can have similar symptoms, but very different root causes. So it could be food intolerances, it could be dysbiosis, which is this microbiome imbalance in the bacteria. It could be low stomach acid, low digestive juices. It could be a combination of these things. So getting some help discovering the root causes of these kind of things, which would be like seeing Dr. Wood, one of the naturopaths at the Tummy Temple, would be very, very good idea if you have digestive problems. Another really great way to detoxify the digestive tract is colonics, or colon hydrotherapy. So that's something we do at the Tummy Temple. And to give you a little bit of understanding of what that is, it's sort of like a warm bath for the colon. So in terms of cleansing, the best uses of colonics are to address constipation so that your cleanse can actually be productive and beneficial as possible. Because if you're doing a cleanse and you're pulling all this waste out of these tissues where it's been stored, but then it can't come out, you actually aren't going to the bathroom enough, you're constipated, then there's really no point in doing the cleanse until you get things moving, because these toxins are just going to recirculate around, make you feel kind of terrible while you're cleansing, and then settle elsewhere in the body. So if you aren't going to the bathroom and you want to cleanse, coming in for a colonic before you start is highly recommended. It's actually really, really gentle. Water is slowly placed into the colon, then it comes back out. It's all very enclosed, and actually sounds much more challenging than it is. And then when it's over, you're like, oh, that was great. Some people might actually need a series of 3 to really get things moving, depending on how backed up their system is. As well, if you're trying to clear the digestive tract, you could use a supplement such as Temple Calm. It's a magnesium citrate that helps draw water into the colon and helps move things out. Or Daiju is one of our products that's bitter herbs that help stimulate digestive juices and move things out when people aren't moving their colon as much as they should. You can also get probiotics. We have one Temple Biotic, one called Immunospore, different good bacteria to help if you feel that some of the reason things aren't moving could be from a microbiome imbalance.
So next, I'm going to talk more about the liver, which is just a vital aspect of detoxification. So it works by filtering toxins out of the blood and then processing them to make them easier to eliminate. And that processing, there's multiple chemical reactions. The main ones that get talked about are phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. And that's what Heidi was referencing before, where sometimes the second phase is not working very well, and there are ways that we can support that. And then the liver does, like 1,000 other tasks as well, which we're not going to get into, but from the perspective of detoxification, this one is crucial. So the liver can get clogged from alcohol consumption, air pollution, water pollution, pharmaceutical use. Obviously, pharmaceuticals can be life-saving in some circumstances, but they can also have side effects, and the breakdown products can be just something that our bodies have to cope with and detoxify. Food additives, excess sugar and junk food, smoking, and then inadequate sleep. So in Chinese medicine, it's been known for thousands of years that the most active time of the liver is during the night. So I recommend going to bed by 10 or 11 p.m. and getting at least 8 hours of sleep per night to best support liver function and your health in general. And this is actually, this knowledge from Chinese medicine is actually being borne out in research, more recently. So having a disrupted circadian rhythm where your sleep-wake cycle is not set to the day-night cycle can really impact our liver's functioning. So studies in mice have shown that the liver actually grows in size by 40% during waking and feeding hours, and then shrinks back down to baseline during sleep on a 24-hour cycle. So this pattern actually stops happening if their sleeping and feeding times don't follow a regular, steady daily pattern. There have thus far been small studies on humans that have shown a similar pattern. So this really matches up with our understanding that the liver operates best on a steady cycle of regular sleep times and regular meal times. The body really likes consistent patterns of activity, and it's built to follow patterns of daylight and nighttime as its cues. So things like international travel, shift work, irregular meal times, and disrupted sleep can all really interfere with this. Ways that we can help the liver keep detoxifying effectively are reducing exposure to environmental chemicals, minimizing alcohol intake or avoiding it entirely, cleaning up the diet, focusing more on nutritious whole foods, as little processed as possible or completely unprocessed, getting at least 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep per night. And if you struggle with this, getting help with that, which is another thing naturopathic doctors at Tummy Temple can help with. And then castor oil packs are a wonderful treatment that uses castor oil over the belly. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about that later. And then also that'll be part of the resource email that we send out, is a handout on castor oil packs. And we have a YouTube channel that has YouTube videos explaining how to do a lot of these therapies that we're going to talk about. Coffee enemas are very helpful for both the intestinal health and liver health. So coffee enemas seem to really increase glutathione production and binding to toxins to help make them more water soluble. Glutathione is one of the main substances that our bodies use to attach to those toxins to make them more water soluble so they can better be eliminated. Glutathione is also one of our most powerful antioxidants that protects the liver, well, everywhere in the body, but especially liver, lungs, and brain from oxidative damage. So it's a really good substance. We definitely want to have it around. And you can do coffee enemas at home. You can check out that YouTube video and we'll send a link to that. We have kits and little instructional handouts at Tummy Temple if you're wanting to get started with that. And then also it's an add-on that's available during a colonic. So sometimes it's very overwhelming to get started with something like a coffee enema, and it's actually much nicer and easier to come in for a colonic and just have that as part of it. And then colonics have this whole other aspect of supporting liver function. So even if you're not constipated, additional toxins get carried out during a colonic beyond what would be removed by a normal bowel movement. So during a cleanse, our body's doing all of this processing and eliminating of extra toxins. And a lot of them, some of them get put into the blood and then go out through the urine, but a lot of them get put into the bile, which is stored in the gallbladder, pumped out into the digestive system. And we actually, as humans, have just evolved to recycle and reuse our bile over and over again to help us digest fats. But that means that not that much of it leaves with our bowel movements. And so the toxins that are bound to it just hang around. So colonics dramatically increase how much we actually get out, which is one of the main reasons that they're so helpful during a cleanse. Oftentimes if we have people doing a cleanse and they're feeling really crummy, we will recommend that they come in for a colonic, and it oftentimes just drops the, crummy feelings, feeling tired, achy, headaches, things like that. They just go away or reduce dramatically after a colonic. And it's because of that. It's because of washing out all of that extra bile and its toxin burden. So generally for otherwise healthy people, we generally recommend coming in for a colonic about quarterly, so every 3 months. And during a cleanse, ideally you would schedule a colonic at the beginning and the end, and if you're able to, in the middle as well. So a series of 3 can be fantastic, but just at the beginning and the end is really, really helpful as well. And then a couple more things for supporting the liver. So we can use herbs and therapies to help us cleanse a couple times per year. Some foods and food-like herbs that we can add into our diet to support a healthy liver include dandelion root, which can be used as a tea. Sometimes it gets ground up into a powder and used as a coffee substitute. Milk thistle seed, which can just be sprinkled on the food, or you can get capsules with that, or like tincture extract. Burdock root, which I know they carry at the Olympia Co-op. A lot of times co-ops will carry that just in the vegetable section, and that can be added to soups and stews. And then onions, garlic, mushrooms, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale. And all of those foods, they have extra sulfur in them. And sulfur is really important for our body's ability to make glutathione. So that's one of the ways we can get it in our diet. And then turmeric is a great liver supportive food. Beets are helpful for the liver. And lemon juice, and if you are able to like squeeze a fresh lemon, you get a little bit of the essential oils from the lemon as well, which has a role in that phase 2 detoxification that we were talking about. Some of the products that we like to use are HEPA caps, which is just a really nice, simple mixture of actually a couple of those herbs that I just talked about, the milk thistle, dandelion, turmeric. Temple Detox Optimizer 2 is sort of like a multivitamin to support phase 2 detoxification, which is that second chemical reaction that the liver does to make the toxins more water soluble. And then liposomal glutathione, so you can actually just take additional glutathione. We also have IV therapy options, and those can be really, really wonderful and helpful. So we have one called Detox Supreme, that's an IV drip of a bunch of different nutrients and includes glutathione as well, or we have just a glutathione push. And yeah, so those are available at both of our locations.
And just so I know we've been talking about a number of different products and things like that, I just posted in the chat a link to a collection that has all the different things we're talking about in case you missed what we were saying.
I see someone asked, is drinking coffee also good for cleansing? And it's really interesting. I would say no, not really. And the reason is that the caffeine gets metabolized differently when we drink it orally. And then also the coffee itself is sort of acidic and tends to bother the intestines for a lot of people. It can especially be a little bit hard on the stomach, but especially the caffeine is just one more thing that the body has to detoxify. So generally we recommend staying away from caffeine, including coffee during a cleanse, which sounds kind of funny because we're recommending coffee enemas, but interestingly, they have such a completely different effect when used as an enema versus when you drink it orally. A lot of people will do, who are very, very sensitive to caffeine and would never drink an 8-ounce cup of coffee. They would just like hit the ceiling, can do a coffee enema at night and be absolutely fine. So totally different effect. All right, and then just a couple more things for supporting the liver. So herbs and nutrients to aid in deeper cleansing, like I was talking about 1 to 4 times a year. We have a product called the Complete Body Reset Packs, and it's 30 packets of like pre-counted out supplements, and includes kind of a whole complement of nutrients, including it has the Temple Detox Optimizer 2 in there, as well as a number of other things to really help the body do its detoxification at a faster rate. And then we have a program built around those packets called the Revive Cleansing Program. And we're going to talk more about that later. But I believe Heidi just posted the link to that for your reference.
And someone did ask the question, about caffeine, that was even caffeine in tea bad during a cleanse, I believe is the question.
I generally encourage people to minimize, if not avoid it entirely. I think if possible, wean down ahead of time so you're not starting your cleanse with caffeine withdrawal headaches. But so if you can wean off of it entirely, then that's great. But if that's just not in the cards or you refuse, you can still have a productive cleanse. I would say green tea would probably be your best bet because it has a lot of other health benefits, including it's really, really nourishing and helpful for the microbiome and actually helps encourage the growth of healthy gut bacteria. So there's sort of a balancing act there of, avoiding the caffeine would be ideal, but green tea is your best option if you're going to have a little bit.
So the next cleansing organ system we're going to talk about is the kidneys, and they're constantly filtering your blood and excreting toxins through the bladder and out through the urine. So what is going to clog the kidneys is certainly going to be not enough water, inadequate hydration, but air pollution also can definitely be problematic for the kidneys. Water pollution obviously would also be problematic for the kidneys. Pharmaceuticals, food additives, smoking, you're starting to hear some of these same things over and over again, which is kind of part of the good thing. They all of it, when you start doing something that's healthy for one of these organ systems, it's probably going to be healthy for all of them. As well, holding your urine too long can be hard on the kidneys. So how to keep the kidneys moving, how to keep detoxing the kidneys, stay hydrated. And part of that is making sure that you're getting in electrolytes, trace minerals, because that helps you actually absorb the water and utilize the water that you're drinking. So that includes things like electrolytes include potassium, chloride, magnesium. And then if you feel like you need to go to the bathroom, go. Urinate when you feel the urge, don't hold it. And then, again, reducing exposure to environmental chemicals by not smoking, using a water filter and an air filter is really, really helpful. And we will have different suggestions for water filters, air filters in the handout that we'll be emailing to everyone.
All right, next up is the lungs. So they are taking in oxygen, eliminating carbon dioxide, helping to maintain a precise acidity of the blood by modulating how much carbon dioxide gets breathed out or retained. Things that clog the lungs include shallow breathing, air pollution, smoking, eating foods that increase mucus production. And this can really vary from person to person, but two of the most common culprits are dairy and cane sugar. So ways to keep the lungs detoxifying: breathe. It seems obvious, and clearly you already are alive today, but many of us develop a habit of shallow breathing as a response to stress, or even breath holding for short periods, but that can really be additive. So if you notice that in yourself, then having a daily meditation practice that includes focus on slow abdominal breathing, or just breathing exercises in general can really help shift you back into a rest and digest state and sort of retrain that deeper, kind of healthier type of breathing.
So next is the skin. And sweating is a major way to help eliminate waste and toxins. If you are having skin outbreaks of any kind, it is very likely that the other organs of elimination are overwhelmed and that your body is struggling to cope. And it's basically pushing this excess toxin out and inflaming the skin. So what can clog the skin? Insufficient exercise. You're not sweating and moving. Chemicals in body care products are a major culprit. And again, on that handout, you'll have ways to help find cleaner body products. So it has details on how you can check the safety of what you already are using and how to choose safer products. Petroleum-based products, for example, like Vaseline, are definitely on the no list. Antiperspirant deodorants, not deodorants, but antiperspirant deodorants specifically can be very clogging for the skin. So how to keep it detoxing? Sauna therapies are amazing. People have been doing saunas for thousands of years, and sweating while relaxing actually allows for more detoxification. So both infrared saunas and just regular good old saunas are great. Infrared saunas are ideal, but any dry sauna therapy is really, really going to be helpful. We eliminate so many toxins via sweating that, doing this just really can't be overstated. We always recommend sauna therapies when people are doing cleansing, ideally 3 to 5 times per week for the duration of your cleanse. And for example, Nearing Total Health, which is where the Tummy Temple in the Olympia Lacey location is, they have an infrared sauna that can be booked by the half hour. They're wonderful and you feel great.
Absolutely. Okay, next up is the lymphatic system, which is often underappreciated but crucial. So it is a complex network of vessels that travel throughout the entire body. In a lot of places, they run parallel to our blood vessels, but they're a completely different set of vessels. And they act as a sort of superhighway for our immune systems, as well as a body-wide.
Did you hit the mute?
No.
Damn it, Ruby. Yes, she did.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I don't know what just happened. Maybe someone unmuted themselves. Okay, continuing on. So it's a body-wide waste transportation system. It cleans up things that aren't supposed to be in our bodies, such as bacteria, viruses, precancerous cells, chemicals, mold, toxins, and yeast. And it's sort of cleaning like the spaces between the cells, in between the joints and the muscles, all the areas that are not the gut. We have these vessels traveling there and these kind of teams of different types of immune cells. So there are certain teams of immune white blood cells that are more like police officers or like investigators that are monitoring for invasions like viruses and bacteria. And then there's a whole other team that are more like the waste transport system that are going around gobbling up waste and taking it back to the liver to be processed and eliminated. The lymphatic fluid should be fluid. It should be completely liquid, sort of like the consistency of milk, and that allows it to flow smoothly and be gently sort of pumped along as we move our bodies with the pumping of our muscles. However, it can get thickened and get more like, yogurt or cottage cheese. Sorry for the dairy metaphors. That is kind of gross. And then it gets clogged, and now the lymphatic system is not working optimally. And a lot of times that presents in our bodies as chronic swelling in the body. You want to get checked out by a doctor if you're having something like that, because there are other things like heart conditions or more advanced liver conditions that can also cause swelling. But lymphatic issues are one of the things that can cause this. We can have swollen lymph nodes, breast pain, hormone imbalances can contribute to that as well, but the lymphatic system is highly involved. And then just body aches and pains are all symptoms of clogged lymphatic system. It becomes clogged through probably the single biggest thing is dehydration. Second one is not enough exercise. And then third would be exposure to chemicals in the environment from all those things we talked about, the cleaning products, air pollution, motor oil, etc. And then besides exercise and hydration, other things that we can do to help move the lymph include dry skin brushing. That's another thing that we have a YouTube video on, and so we'll send that out in that email. Rebounding, which is essentially just jumping on a trampoline, but there are like little trampolines meant for grown-ups that are specifically for this, for the lymphatic system. And castor oil packs, which are very helpful for the liver as well, but they also are helpful for stimulating flow of the lymph in and around the intestines and the liver. And then lymphatic massage, and there are different types of lymphatic massage. There's manual lymphatic massage that is a massage therapy primarily. And then at Tummy Temple, we have something called electrolymphatic massage. So that uses glass wands with gentle electromagnetic current passing through them to help actually penetrate into the tissues. It doesn't hurt, it's very gentle, but it helps break up stuck lymph. And then the practitioner is using those wands following the lymphatic vessels and following the direction of flow that we want the lymph to be traveling. So it's using those gentle electromagnetic forces to help sweep along the lymph to move it in the direction it should be going. So that therapy is great for helping move toxins out of the tissues and into the liver for processing. And then this technology, the electrolymphatic therapy, penetrates more deeply into the tissues than dry skin brushing or manual lymphatic massage generally can. And so that can be really helpful for the places in our bodies, like deep in the abdomen, where the lymphatic vessels are not right on the surface. The machine also provides feedback on how congested the lymphatic system is. And that is because the wands slide really smoothly over the skin in areas where the lymph is totally fluid and flowing easily. And then there'll be much more drag felt, and it'll feel almost sticky in areas where the lymph is more congested. So that's also kind of a helpful diagnostic thing. It helps to understand which areas are getting clogged. Our recommendation as far as how often to have electrolymphatic therapy really varies from person to person, but for an otherwise healthy person during a cleanse, 1 to 3 sessions would be a great place to start.
So before I move on to emotions, there's a couple questions. One of them is any foods that are great for the kidneys. And one of my favorites for the kidneys is nettles. Nettles are amazing. And obviously, you can harvest nettles when they're in season, but you can also get dried nettles and make an infusion. We have wonderful nettles at the Tummy Temple, and I would imagine that they have nettles at Marlene's as well. And making an infusion with them is really easy. It's kind of like making a really, really strong tea, where you take a large handful, and put it in a jar that won't break, like a canning jar, like a ball jar or a care jar, and pour boiling water over it, and then leave it overnight, leave it for 8 hours, and then strain it out and drink that. It can be really, really tonifying for the kidneys and wonderful as well. I mean, all the different foods that are high in antioxidants, anything like pomegranates or berries, all the detoxifying foods that we talked about too for the liver and can be helpful for kidneys as well. I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of that overlaps. I don't know, Dr. Wood, if you had any other specific kidney foods that you liked.
Yes. Yeah, another favorite one for me is dandelion leaf. So dandelion root is better for the liver. Dandelion leaf is better for the kidneys. And it's very diuretic. So you would use it as a tea, or, you can eat fresh dandelion leaf, like put a little bit in a salad or a smoothie. It's quite bitter. And yeah, very diuretic. So if you had a lot of it, it would just make you pee and pee and pee, which can be helpful, but to a degree. So yes, that's another one. And absolutely agree with everything Heidi was saying.
I also see a question about portable infrared saunas, like the ones you can buy on Amazon, and if they're nearly as effective as the larger stationary ones.
I am a little bit cautious when I'm researching a sauna because they can really vary in EMF production. And so, that's something that people can be really sensitive to. Sometimes it takes some time to figure out that can be a trigger for someone. But some types of infrared saunas have pretty low EMF output and others are very high. And then another factor would be, what is it made out of? And sometimes saunas can be made with glues and things that are actually sort of toxic. So, I have certain ones that I trust, and other ones that, you know, I wouldn't randomly go on Amazon and buy whatever sauna blanket is out there. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say it's not really portable versus large stationary. It's more like the entire company and what they utilize to make their products. I think there could be very good portable ones and very bad large stationary ones, and vice
yes,
versa.
yes. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, so there are some good portable ones out there. I think Sunlighten has a
Mhm.
decent portable one. And then they also have big kind of wooden room ones. And you know, there are some other good ones, but I don't have them at the top of my mind right now.
There's one more question too. Do we recommend adding electrolytes every day to our water instead of drinking regular water?
I would say for the most part, yes. And the caveat to that would be there are certain blood pressure medications and some other medications that make you retain potassium. And it is actually dangerous to get too much potassium. And so, you know, I would look up interactions with your medications before taking an electrolyte formula daily that has potassium in it, which the one that we usually use is that electrolyte concentrate called Elite, has quite a bit of potassium. And then also someone with a kidney disease would be potentially a little compromised in how their body copes with electrolyte balance. And so that would be another caution.
So I'm going to talk about the emotions now. So how the emotions work for detoxification, they're actually an important form of our nervous system discharging. So what can clog emotions is actually avoiding feeling them. They can actually get stuck and stored in our body. So how to keep it running smoothly is to actually be present to our emotions, allow ourselves to feel them, even if they're uncomfortable, and allow them to then dissipate naturally, basically allow them to move through. So ways that we can help do that would include things like counseling. Homeopathy, which Dr. Wood practices, is also extremely helpful for this. Meditation, as we mentioned before, which is also great for breathing. Craniosacral is also wonderful. It's a gentle hands-on therapy that will actually release tension patterns in the body and help reestablish an optimal flow of the cranial rhythm throughout the body. And it can be a great addition if there's emotional congestion that needs help being released. So there's actually body work that can help you relax into releasing these emotions and allowing them to flow through. Because if people have been holding them for a long time, it can be hard to do that. And so getting a little support in that can be really, really helpful.
Absolutely. I see someone is just sharing that in maybe in Seattle, City Sweat.
Yes, Seattle. It is.
Go for sauna therapy.
Yes, it is.
For the resource. All right. So there's just a couple safety and efficacy issues I want to go over. Probably the single biggest one is if you're going to use some sort of products, you know, take some sort of supplements, make sure you're really paying attention to quality. So, you know, we choose the things we choose specifically because they are of very high quality, third-party tested. We know what's in them. We trust these brands. And then, you know, I've looked through the types of things that Marlene stocks, and of course, I can't comment on every single thing, but generally, I'm impressed with the quality of the things they carry in their store versus there are, you know, just like detox products galore at Costco or Target or CVS or wherever. And there have been studies on a lot of these products showing that they're highly contaminated. Sometimes they have, you know, high levels of heavy metals. Sometimes they're not, like what it says on the label is actually not at all what's in there. So I am very, very cautious about just grabbing whatever detox product, you know, at any old store. So that's a very important caution. And then if you're designing a cleanse for yourself, the most important factors would be again, approaching the cleanse from a desire for self-care and nourishment, making sure you're not constipated, getting some naturopathic support with addressing root causes of constipation, if that's really an issue for you, or coming in for colonic. And then during the cleanse, really leaning into reducing exposure to toxins as much as possible. And of course, that is very important all the time in your life, but especially during a cleanse, things that you might partake in, here and there, or in your normal life, like some alcohol or coffee or sugar or processed foods. Those should really be out during your cleanse, because it just lightens the burden of the things that your body needs to cope with. Drinking filtered water, if at all possible, choosing organic foods, and then getting plenty of rest, making this a time to really slow down. If someone tells me I am super stressed right now, I'm going to do a cleanse. I often try to talk them out of it and, reschedule for a time when things are not so hectic, because it's a metabolically expensive process for your body to detoxify. And that means it's very common to feel sort of tired and sluggish and just need more rest. And so if you don't have time to give yourself that rest, then it would be better to postpone for a little bit. I would say it's not normal to feel horrendous during a cleanse, a little achy or sluggish, fine. But, oftentimes what that means is if you're really starting to feel not very good, like we talked about, toxins are being stirred up and pulled from your tissues faster than your body can get rid of them. And that's not a good thing. That just means they'll settle elsewhere. So slowing down, resting, leaning into these therapies we've talked about, getting good sleep, eating a rich diet rich in multicolored fruits and vegetables, as well as getting lots of fiber from things like whole grains and legumes like beans and lentils. Sweating regularly. It's not really the best time to do high intensity exercise, but instead, walking, stretching, move your body every day, but focus on those types of movements, and then passive sweating via sauna therapy.
So we've been talking about a clean lifestyle. And so to up things a little and increase your impact, to have your cleanse be the most successful, then you can add in herbs and nutrients that ramp up the liver's detoxification pathways. You can also add in therapies that will help your body eliminate those toxins that the liver is releasing, so that you can process them as efficiently as possible. So some of the products that we use to do that are in the collection I posted earlier in the chat would be something like Detox Tonic. It's a gentle herbal tincture that's a gentle support that helps detoxify all the organs of the body. The Complete Body Reset Packs is a little bit more intensive. You can use it as a 10-day intensive cleanse where you took 3 packets of a day, or you can space it out over 15 to 30 days for a more gentle process. And these packets include multiple supplements that are really comprehensive nutrients that support phase 1 and 2 liver detoxification, enzymes that aid in digestion, herbal support for cleansing. There's fish oil for decreasing inflammation. There's an antioxidant support. And then there's oregano oil that helps kill off bad microbes and yeast. And then to take it all the way, you can do our 10-day Revive Cleanse, which I also posted in the chat. And that includes the Complete Body Reset Packs, as well as a good bacteria. And then you add in a whole comprehensive program of support that includes a whole food diet with recipes and menus. It includes videos that show you how to do some of these self-care things that we were talking about, like how to do a coffee enema or how to do dry skin brushing, and helps move you through the 10 days and really supports you on the cleanse. It even comes with a 15-minute consult with me to help you set your goals or know what's specifically going on with you to help tailor it. So those are some of the ways you can really up a cleanse as far as supplements and cleanses. And then Dr. Wood's going to talk about some of the therapies that you can add on that can be helpful.
All right, so I'm just going to kind of recap a lot of things we already talked about, but just reiterate, what therapies to lean into for what body systems. And these are things that you can incorporate into your daily life as well to just promote gentle detoxification throughout your regular lifestyle. So for primarily gut and liver support, coffee enemas and colonics are the two most important ones. And again, we'll send out those instructional video links. For lymphatic support, dry skin brushing, and we'll include that link as well to that YouTube video. And then as well as getting movement, exercise, rebounding. If you already have a trampoline, jump on your trampoline, and then electrolymphatic therapy. For kind of all three, gut, lymphatic, and liver support, castor oil packs are really wonderful, and we'll include resources for that. For nervous system, brain lymphatic circulation and emotional support, craniosacral therapy is wonderful. And then just for general detox support, Epsom salt baths are great. When we haven't talked about that yet, I would recommend using 3 to 4 cups of Epsom salts in your bathtub and soaking for 20 to 30 minutes. And the reason that's so helpful is because Epsom salts are magnesium sulfate, and we actually absorb some of that sulfur through our skin, which again is helpful for glutathione production and general detoxification. And it's also relaxing, which helps get us into a rest and digest state where our body is more able to do this work. All right, so
sorry, I was muted. That was me being muted. So if you're interested in doing a cleanse or trying some of these tools, we're offering a discount off of your first service for anyone who signed up for the class. We're also offering $20 off of a session or 20% off of supplements. I'm just going to post it in the chat. We have a coupon code for our website that's Cleanse 2023 for the store. And we'll send all of this out in a follow-up email within the next couple of days with all the resources that we talked about. And you won't
I believe
receive.
That's if you book your session within the next week.
Oh yeah, right.
Just let us know at checkout that you attended this class, and we'll honor that $20 off. And then the 20% off coupon, is that good for a week?
Yes, in the online store. That's right.
And the coupon code for that will be, so that's for our online store, and the coupon code will be in that follow-up email we'll send out in the next day or two.
For sure. And, if you'd like to continue receiving alerts about sales or discounts or recipes or health tips and newsletters from us, you can sign up at the link that I put in the chat for the Vitality Club, and you'll receive our newsletter. And it looks like there's a question. Would lemon essential oil be best to add for an Epsom salt bath?
That's one good option. You could certainly do that. Yes.
I think, different essential oils will have different positive impacts. So, there's lots of options.
I see someone else asked, do you recommend Whole30? And I think Whole30 is great. Absolutely. It's a great way to get support leaning into a whole foods diet.
Someone says, is it normal to break out in severe hives when doing an Epsom salt bath? No.
So I don't know what you were reacting to, but there was something, maybe the sulfate that triggered an allergic reaction. So no, absolutely not.
And I've also seen Epsom salt that has like, not an essential oil, but like a fragrance added, which I'm wondering too.
I would check on that to see if there was anything else in it, like a fragrance that you could have had an allergic reaction to.
There was no fragrance. Well, okay. Yeah.
So maybe the sulfate, some people have sulfur sensitivities. So no, that's not normal. And most of the time people don't have that reaction.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
And then what about Biome Prebiotic Gut Health? I think that's a particular product, and I don't know that I can weigh in specifically on that, but generally prebiotics are a type of fiber that help to feed healthy gut bacteria. And so, in concept, prebiotics are usually very helpful.
And if you're trying to get in more fiber, as Dr. Wood was talking about, you would naturally be increasing your prebiotics in that way.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. I think that's all the questions we see in there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
And hope you found this useful.
And thank you, Marlene's Market and Elizabeth, for hosting.
Yeah, thank you so
Always
much.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a great night.